you're going to introduce.
Hi everybody, we are back. It's Wednesday and we are live for our Q&A session. I just want to introduce first my counterpart, Diane. She's based in the US. She's customer success coach there, and I'm Maria, customer success coach here for EMEA. Today we're just going to be touching on the ambitious women's mindset. Now, this is something that here at Supermums we certainly love to explore, and we do this with our trainees, but also for anybody really who is looking to have that career progression or actually looking to get that work-life balance, especially if you've got a family at home, etc. You know, how do we do that as professional women within the workplace? So last year, we launched our Ambitious Women's Mastermind, which is a brilliant package where you can really kind of focus in on that mindset. And Diane and I had the pleasure of creating content for that mastermind, which was fun. And there's certainly topics here that are our strengths as coaches, right, Diane?
Yes, definitely. So really the Ambitious Women Mastermind course is about that mindset, right? Creating that mindset for yourself to be able to help with your career and your goals. And it's around, how are you going to live out those goals? So some of the time we can talk about some of the topics that we went over during that course. I know one of them that was really important and that I had created was about developing your support network and how important it is to have that great support network for you to challenge you and support you in your personal and your career goals. If you don't have the people around you that are going to support you in every day, when, times when you get stressed, times when you need somebody there to be that, cheerleader, that person to kind of, motivate you on, it's a good idea to think about setting up that support network so that you have someone to turn to when, your mindset, maybe you're losing your energy, you're losing that positive mindset. If you have people around you that are there to support you, that's going to go a long way for you and, keep that positive mindset for you. So I think that support network is really important. And that's one of the areas that I know that I talked about and stressed as something that you can do to, again, to embrace that ambitious women mindset.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our network is so key, isn't it? And we also need kind of sometimes those straight talking friends in our network, don't we?
Someone is going to be honest with you.
Give us a click.
Right. Someone is going to be honest with you and give you that feedback. That's very true, Maria. You're right. Giving you that feedback, it's not always going to be what you want to hear, but it is going to challenge you and keep it realistic for you. So, building that support network is really important.
Definitely. And I think that kind of leads nicely on to one of the topics that I covered, which was boundaries, actually, because one, you want to be tapping into your support network to kind of clearly indicate your boundaries. And sometimes boundaries is a really tricky thing, because sometimes we can think that we have them and we don't realize that our boundaries are actually being crossed. But I do really, truly believe that, especially around that ambitious mindset and also to achieve that work-life balance, we do have to have really healthy boundaries. And I know I often speak to people who have perhaps suffered burnout, for example, and this is why they're looking to transition into Salesforce, because they want the flexibility, they want this different lifestyle and this work-life balance. But I always say to them, it really starts with you. Because yes, you can go and have all of this flexibility and this wonderful work-life balance, but actually, ultimately, you have to create those boundaries, because if you're not very good at saying no, then certainly they will be crossed in any workplace environment and personal environment. So certainly, I kind of think those boundaries are key and link very nicely with our network, because you need to be expressing what those boundaries are to your loved ones, to your friends, so that they can help and support you ultimately achieve those big goals that we'll be looking at. I think another one that we looked at was celebrating strengths.
Right. which is
And this is
important.
one that I love. I love
That's
this one.
important. And it's something we don't do for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I love to
Yeah.
talk about that when I talk about the celebrating your strengths. It's interesting how we have we're used to celebrating and everyone else's success,
Yeah.
and we're used to celebrating in what others accomplish, but we have a hard time, turning that on ourselves and celebrating ourselves. So that's one of the things that we definitely have to work on. We have to work on acknowledging and acknowledging our strengths and what our accomplishments are, what our achievements are, and being able to celebrate that. That puts you in the right mindset. I think what goes along with that when I talk about the celebration is having that self-reflection, right? To even to
Yes.
understand what are your strengths, what are your ambitions, what are your achievements. You have to have that self-reflection to really understand what your values are and how that translates into your success, and how it can translate into your success, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And our strengths are, they can, when they come easily to us, they can be masked. Sometimes
Right.
we don't identify them as ourselves as strengths, which is again why your network is key. To be able to
Correct.
go to your trusted friends and family and kind of get feedback and kind of go, what do you think my strengths are? Because actually the more you evidence that, it does build that portfolio, doesn't it? Of kind of going, I do have all of these wonderful strengths and I can identify them. And especially when we live in a society where we can't, or it's not, certainly here in the UK, where you need to kind of be subtle about your strengths, because obviously if you seem to be boasting about them, that's, sometimes you can't do right for doing wrong, but actually it's a really important part of that career progression and actually going for that next role, isn't it?
Right, right.
Of
It
having those.
is embracing those strengths. That was a good point that you brought up too. But sometimes people on the outside, can recognize our strengths better than we can ourselves, because we're hard on ourselves. We're hard on ourselves, and we don't always see, what all of our strengths are. We probably know some of them because we know our skills and we know what we are able to accomplish. But on the outside, people looking at you, what do they see you as? How do they view you, and where do they see your strengths? And so you're right. It's a good idea. You go to your support network and you ask them about, what would you say about me? The one exercise I always like to do is to have individuals write down, okay, how would someone describe you if you weren't in the room, right? So
Yeah.
if someone was introducing you or talking about you, what would they say about you, and how would they describe you if you weren't there? That's an interesting exercise to do, because it makes you think about, how do other people view me? And if it's different from how you're viewing yourself, that's where you need to work on, okay, I need to recognize these areas more, and understand exactly what my strengths are. So that's a great point. But yeah, and it's not easy to go out of your comfort zone to kind of be that person that boasts about your strengths. We have to figure out a way, and we talk about this a lot. How do you stretch yourself and go out of that comfort zone and be able to talk about your strengths without seeming that you're boasting or bragging about it? That's
Yeah.
definitely something that we work on as well.
Yeah, we should be proud, shouldn't we, of our
Yeah.
strengths, and we should be able to showcase them. And I
Right.
think that kind of then leads into the next area that we do explore, which is around that leadership. Now, words kind of come, don't they? But leadership to me means, again, something different to everybody, because
Mhm.
it doesn't necessarily have to be a title. You
Right.
can be a leader in all different ways, shapes, and forms, right? And
Right.
that kind of establishes you as a leader in that group, and you might be a change maker, for
Right.
different things. And I think, that leadership piece, again, I think especially for women, can be difficult, because we can be seen to be maybe bossy,
Blessing.
or
That's
you
the first
know
thing I know that comes to mind, right?
and we kind of, again, there's kind of a fine line, isn't there, as to
Mhm.
that assertiveness, but that we do need that in leadership, don't we? So we do cover that as part of that mindset.
Mhm.
um and I kind of think, we can all be leaders in our own way and our
Right.
own right. And, that directly leads, I think, to our impact.
Right.
What impact do you want to make? And I think sometimes it is about stepping out of that comfort zone, isn't it, with that leadership piece?
Right. I agree. It's more about your, your actions. What have you done, and what are your intentions that you have done? Being a leader can, simply mean that you are, again, making a change. Like you said, it doesn't have to be a title, but what have you done to maybe, precipitate a change or implemented something, being a mentor to somebody, helping out someone else. Those are all leadership skills that are important and that you can showcase. And oftentimes it doesn't come, with a title. You're exactly right. So recognizing the impact that you've had on the business, on some type of process, or, responsibility that you've done, can all be leadership skills. And we need to get comfortable with recognizing that and showcasing, those particular skills. I feel so strongly about that as well.
Definitely, because it can feel a bit uncomfortable, can't it? So it's about, just owning that and just being really clear on what that leadership looks like. And,
Mhm.
again, all of these pillars of that ambitious women mindset all really kind of bleed into each other, don't they? They all
Yeah.
interlink really very closely for
Mhm.
that whole mindset piece. And we also covered team dynamics.
Mhm.
Now, I always find that this is an interesting one because, and this goes for if you're working as part of a team, but also your team at home.
Right.
This is also
Right.
on a personal level, isn't it? And how do you have that interaction, and and how, and there is an element of that coaching piece, isn't there, or that understanding and empathy, and all of those things that come to play with team dynamics.
Yes, yeah, everybody has to work in a team of some sort. Again, if whether it's where, at work, or it's at home, or in your community, there's always going to be a team of people that you work with, and it's important to understand how you fit into that team, and how you interact in that team, and what strategies are you using and utilizing to effectively communicate within that team. So that's definitely part of our ambitious women mindset is understanding the communication styles and how to interact within that team, and how you can each benefit from one another. Again, there's always going to be a team. Even if you feel like you're working, by yourself on a project, you're going to have to interact with others. So that's definitely, again, a great thing to look at, as far as, how do we see ourselves as part of that team dynamic, and what can we do to improve that team dynamic.
Yeah, because it can be challenging, but actually, with all of, with that recognition and understanding people's, different ways of working,
Right.
you can have that piece of understanding, can't you? And really work for the greater good of whatever that is. And certainly, we try and do that at home, where we're all kind of doing our bit and pulling together, and we're all taking our hit for the team, and that does help, doesn't it, to have that piece of understanding.
Right.
Certainly, I think as parents, if we're kind of the only ones that are doing everything, and we feel that the weight is on our shoulder, but actually when that's shared, it brings everybody closer together, doesn't it, as that, for that team dynamics.
And I
And
think
I
that's
guess,
just with your work environment too. You stress that too, is, are we taking on everything ourselves,
yeah,
or, are there responsibilities that we can delegate? That's one, I
yeah,
think, area that we have a problem with too, is
yeah,
being able to understand what can we delegate, and how can others help us,
yeah,
to contribute to a shared goal. So you have that at home with your family, you have that in your work environment. There should be a shared goal that everybody is working towards, and understanding the dynamics of everybody, and how they can all help out, is really important. And being able to delegate some of those responsibilities, I think,
yeah.
again, as women, we have a hard time, I think, with
Yeah, yeah, we take
times.
it all on, don't
We
we?
want to
And
take it all on. And so it's
absolutely.
important to understand, what can we delegate, and how can we go about delegating that, and, make others understand that we're all working towards that shared goal.
Yeah, because that's when burnout happens as well,
Yes.
isn't it? When you're taking on,
Mhm.
we do have to let others take control of areas that we know that they can do well.
Mhm.
And I think that probably again then leads nicely on to energy. We talk a lot about energy in our mindset, and I do think there are people, and they can be the closest people to us, or they could be people who we're working with, and I call them mood hoovers. And it's really hard to kind of get away from that
Right, right,
sometimes, isn't it?
right.
Because you might have a certain level of energy and somebody might be kind of slowly sucking that away, and you can't get away from that.
Mhm.
And we often find that actually in our family setting with
Yes.
sort of certain people that we just can't, again, that then links in with boundaries. But actually, our energy is really important, isn't it? And that does affect our mindset.
Right, right. Having that, positive energy and keeping that energy up is a challenge, because oftentimes we are, multitasking. Things are going on that we're not in control of, and it all kind of weighs in on us on a daily basis. So it's hard to keep that energy up. We talk about strategies, right, to keep that
Yeah.
energy up. What can you do to help keep that energy up during the day? Oftentimes, it might just be walking away from something, right? Being able to take that break, do something for yourself that's going to recharge that energy inside you. Taking that break. If you're used to just working through it, that might not be the best strategy. You might be able to have to, concentrate on yourself for a couple minutes, or do an exercise, do an activity that's only for you to kind of recharge yourself and recharge your energy. And I think just acknowledging it and being aware of
Yeah.
it. When is my energy draining from me? Are there people that I'm around that are draining my energy? Or are there, is it my reaction to the people that are draining my energy? Because I think that's a
Yeah.
big part of it too, is oftentimes we get into a reactive mode sometimes, and that's what's draining our energy. So it's
Yeah.
important for us to figure out, our reactions, how are we responding to it? But what is what's responsible for draining our energy from us? And we need to work on that.
Yeah, we need to plug the holes,
Yep.
don't we? I think it's important, it's not about being a Duracell bunny, and
Yes.
having loads of kind of positive energy. This is about, that depletion, isn't it? Where we kind of then we're exhausted, or we're not quite thinking straight, or so you're exactly right. If you can identify those triggers and what's actually, draining, you can then put those really healthy boundaries in place of kind of going, actually, right, well, I recognize what this is, and then I'm going to walk away. And like you say,
Right.
you can go and get some fresh air, you can have a break, you can, I always think it's great to be able to just take a little bit of a reflection piece sometimes when you reply, or when you're kind of answering, whether that's loved ones or, colleagues or anything, because sometimes we're in that heat of the moment, as you say, like that reactive space,
Yes.
isn't it?
I
And then
think
that
that's
can
one of the,
make you feel bad
right.
in
It
your
can make
energy, can't it?
Right, because you end up, I just love the comment someone, Mara had said, energy vampires.
Yes.
So true. But yeah, you're right. The reactive piece, I think that comes from, just kind of the day and age we're living in right now, where everything is so instant.
Yes.
It didn't used to be that way. You had more time for reflection, and you didn't always get an instant response. So you're exactly right, Maria. That's a great piece of advice. I try to do that as well, as I try to take a breath before I
Yeah.
famously will start to write something and stop for a second, take a breath, and figure out, what do I really want to accomplish out of this? So that's something you need to ask yourself, is what am I accomplishing by reacting this way or doing something this way? Figure out what is that going to do to you before you do it. So instead of just stepping into it, maybe take a step back, think about it for yourself, and
Yeah.
reflect.
And that's it. And I think it's actually on the other side of that, yes, we have kind of mood hoovers, but actually we have real positive influences
Yes.
in our lives. And I think it's about
Yes.
establishing both, and
Mm-hmm.
then actually, tapping into those positive influences. So like for me, I know that my dog walking time is that fills my
Yes.
cup, that kind of gives me that headspace where I'm not thinking about anything else other than the dog. So for me, that's a really important piece of my energy, my energy piece, so that I can then work from a place that is, that's calm and,
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not trying to do too many things. So I think as much as it's about eliminating or trying to have less exposure to energy vampires and mood hoovers, it's actually about what actually fills your cup.
Right.
What gives you that good feel?
Mm-hmm.
What makes you forget about life just for a few minutes, and
Right.
doing that. And that might be walking, it might be taking a bath, it might be just hiding away with a book for
Right.
10,
Doing
15
something.
minutes or
Right.
something. It's
Mm-hmm.
really what resonates with you, isn't it? But sometimes we don't take that reflection piece, like you was just saying, to even establish what makes us happy
Right.
and what
Right.
fills our cup.
Right. It kind of goes back all the way to the beginning when we started off talking about, that self-reflection, that
Mm,
setting your goals, your intentions. You really have to know about yourself and understand what are your, what is going to make you happy? What are your triggers? Just
mm.
understanding what your values are and doing that self-reflection piece, I think is probably the start to
Is
all of this understanding and all of this mindset is doing that self-reflection.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of think when I, before I become a coach, I was very intermittent, with my mindset and what that meant to me, I guess, because I knew that it was important, but I probably didn't practice it regular enough to get the benefit. But I'm sure that you would agree that actually our mindset is a daily, we have to be
Mhm.
conscious of that daily,
Right,
because we can very easily slip into kind of old habits. And that's why we set out the ambitious women's mindset over a number of topics and a number of time, because it's about that repetition and about really working on that mindset to make real positive last long changes, really,
right,
isn't it,
right.
in
It's
our
hard.
routines. Yeah.
It's hard to establish those routines, right?
Yeah.
I think that I had there was a statistic that you have to do something every day for at least 2 months for it to become a
Yes.
habit.
Yeah.
So, and I think we all get overwhelmed with trying to figure out, what can we do? How can we establish these healthy habits? And really, it's about doing one thing or kind of chunking down what you want to accomplish and what you want to do into reasonable daily activities. So even if you just change one thing, right, and
Yeah.
start doing that every day, it's going to become a habit. So if you want to try to develop more of this positive mindset, try doing something every day that maybe is going to contribute towards that, and see if you can keep that up for a couple months to make it, and then integrate that into your daily habits. So whatever you feel like, again, if you feel like your energy is getting drained every day, schedule in that dog walk every day, and it's going to become part of your habit. It's going to become part of your go-to when your energy is getting drained, and it's just gonna be a part of your regular routine. So think about that. Don't try to do too much at one time. We always need to
Mhm.
remember that we have to keep our goals, our intentions, any of these habits, we have to keep them reasonable, right? We have to make sure that they are able to be achievable. If there's something that we're trying to change in ourselves and we're shooting for the stars, it's too much. We're trying to change too much at one time. That's going to again come back on us and
Yeah.
suck our energy and have the exact opposite effect. So if for just for today, you can get any tip, I would say start working on one thing that you can implement and into your life that might be able to have that positive change on your energy and help to affect your energy.
Yeah, I think that's, because it becomes overwhelming, doesn't it? Otherwise. So, and that's what you're trying to avoid. You're trying to get that work-life balance. You're trying
Right,
to have
right.
more harmony and a really good mindset. So it defeats the object, doesn't it, of
Right,
that? So
right.
it is that one focus of what you're going to achieve, and then do
Mhm.
that really well. And then you
Do
can
it really
celebrate it, right? Because
right,
you've achieved it. So
right.
these are all kind of tools and techniques and strategies that we can share with you as part of the Ambitious Women's Mastermind. And that is actually coming up the first week of March. So we do have another intake. It's always a really kind of intimate group where, it's aimed for women who are looking to kind of take that career progression and take those next steps, but just need to
Mhm.
work on that mindset to get them to that next stage. Or, parents who are busy and they just are struggling with that work-life balance and just want to be able to take control of that. And
Mhm.
also people who are wanting to make an impact, who are really wanting to go out and find that leadership role. So, we do have that coming up in March, and I'm sure that we'll share more of that on our socials as the time gets closer. But it's really nice to actually just talk about mindset because it's so important, isn't it, for our trainees,
Right.
for our
Mhm.
alumni, for us as employees. It does filter all the way through, doesn't it?
Yeah, it carries into, our personal, professional life. And unfortunately, we don't really concentrate on it that much. We are so busy being busy that we don't always concentrate on ourselves that much, and what we can do for ourselves to affect that change, right? So being part of this group is exactly right. It helps you not only in your personal life, being able to do that self-reflection and set those goals, but also in your professional, in your life, in your career. How do you go to what you want? How do you find that success? And oftentimes it is about that mindset. And we give you some of those tools and techniques to be able to do that for yourself. And you need outside help. Sometimes you need that outside help, and to be a part of this group is really that help that you can get. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it really is a great group for anyone really that is just seemingly overwhelmed or just trying to figure out what's my next step. How do I get to my next step? How do I progress in my career? How do I embrace that mindset to make sure that I am really, living out my goals and my aspirations. So we'd love to have, anybody join us for that. So
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
we love delivering all of those mindset pillars because they're things that we are passionate about as coaches, that we coach with clients and trainees. And, these are really important, important parts of the puzzle to get you to that next step. So I
Mhm.
think we've got no questions that I can see here at the minute. So that's probably us for today. But certainly if you wanted to talk about the ambitious women's mindset, feel free to reach out to Diane or myself. We can drop our Calendly links here in the chat. And we'll also keep an eye. So if you do have any questions, if you're watching this on replay, just feel free to drop them in and we'll just keep a close eye on the chat as the evening or day kind of goes on.
Right.
But I
I
think you're
did put
flying
in
solo next week. So
right, right.
I'm
I
not
know.
sure. So I won't see you
So it
next
might
week.
be
So I
just me.
can't.
Yeah, it might be just me next week. So I'm really going to miss you, Maria, because I love talking with you here. It's always nice to share the
It
space with somebody
is.
else. And, we bring each other up for sure. Once we go live, we love interacting with each other. So I will be solo next week. That's right. I did want to say that I just put the link to learn more about the Ambitious Women Mastermind. So you can go there and look at that. I put my calendar link. I don't know if you want to drop yours in there.
Yeah, I'll drop mine in too. I should do that now. It's just taken a little minute, but yep, mine's there now as well. So,
Perfect.
we're here to chat. So hopefully we get to speak to some of you soon.
Yes. Thanks so much. We liked
No
being here
worries.
today, and I will see everyone next week.
Good luck.
All
Bye-bye.
righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.